Ebullient greetings. I'm your host, Jackie Bird of Jackie Bird Spiritual Wellness, your guide to stress and anxiety relief, mindfulness, awareness, self-care, self-love, and personal growth. Welcome and thank you for joining me as we roll with peace in mind. Today's riff is Are You on the Right Train? Riding on the Urge. These episodes feature people who are doing their thing, they follow their heart and their passion, and they create how they want, what they want, when they want, and they are riding on the right train. Today's spotlight is Sayydah Garrett. I am so excited to have my longtime friend Sayydah Garrett here, and you know, the thing I have to say about her before we even get going is, Sai, you've always had this life that always seemed not easy, but things just flow to you.
This is true.
Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Well, it's not as if it was planned, and you're right. Things do flow to me. It's not because I plan anything, because I really think the universe is the master plan. And that is reflected in my life, in what I do, how I act, how I respond to things.
Yes.
So if I could say in a sentence what my life is like, I would have to quote Rumi, the Persian poet, who says, "Live your life as though it's rigged in your favor."
Okay, now she just dropped the bomb and we're not even 5 minutes into the interview, okay? But that's my friend. That's my friend Sai. So I'm going to have her introduce herself. Who are you, honey? Even though I told everybody who you were, but go for it.
So I'm Sayydah Garrett, and I do several things. I teach English as a second language part-time, as well as adult basic education. And I'm the founder and president of a nonprofit organization called Pastoralist Child Foundation. I also teach French part-time at an adult school here in New Jersey. And I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a sister, I'm all those things. And I'm originally from Montreal, Canada. And I've been in New Jersey since I married in 1984. So I've actually lived in the United States longer than in my native country of Canada.
That's really kind of interesting how that goes. And Sayydah comes from a musical legacy. You want to talk about your dad just a little bit?
Sure. So my dad was born Russell Linwood Thomas. And he's from Harlem, New York. And he was a saxophonist. He was a kick-ass woodwind musician. The flutes, from the piccolo to the bass flute, the clarinet, all the saxophones, from the soprano to the bass saxophone. He did go to Music and Art High School when he lived in New York. And then when he moved to Canada, he became a music teacher. And at an early age, when we were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, Duke Ellington asked him to be a member of his band. But because we were very young, my dad didn't want to travel and all that. So fast forward to the 80s, my dad subbed in Montreal for a musician who couldn't make it to the gig at Place des Arts in Montreal. So the local musicians union said, call Saeed. So in the meantime, my dad had changed his name from Russell Linwood Thomas to Saeed Abdul Al-Khabir when we embraced Islam in 1971. So he never really traveled when we were kids, but when we were all grown, that's when he met Mercer again and joined the Duke Ellington Orchestra.
Wow. So wait a minute. He wasn't in the orchestra when I did Sophisticated Ladies, was he?
He was in... No. He wasn't. He had gone back to Montreal, I think.
Wow, how funny. But, Sai and I have been friends for half our lives at this point.
Yes.
So when I met you,
right.
What were you doing when I met you?
Dating Kenny.
Well, you know what? When I met you, you guys were engaged.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was so sweet. He had talked about you, and then we met you when we came to Montreal. And I was like,
right.
She's so pretty. No, wait a minute. Toronto. I think we were in Toronto.
It was in Toronto. Yes.
I was like, she's so pretty. Right. She's so nice.
Aww.
But the first job I remember you having was American Express.
Yes, I worked at American as soon as I moved to New York. Well, we live in New Jersey, but yes, my first job was at American Express Bank in New York.
And were you an executive assistant?
Executive assistant
And
in
you
correspondent banking.
And you seem like you enjoyed your job, if I'm remembering.
I did.
See, that's the thing about you.
Yes.
As long as I've known you, you have seemed to have enjoyed whatever it was that you were doing.
Very true.
And I think, again, just having observed you as a friend, that's also seems to be part of why things flow to you.
Right.
Because you have a sense of enjoyment and appreciation.
Right. And what I loved about working at American Express Bank was I got to use my languages. So because I was in the international banking department, I was speaking with people in French and Russian and Italian. I got to use my languages. And I also learned excellent skills that I took to my next job, which was in the nonprofit field.
And that's what I remember. You were able... Is it 7 languages you speak fluently?
Not anymore.
No,
I'm a little rusty. I can say I speak English, French, and Russian.
Okay.
My Ukrainian is, I'm half Ukrainian, so my Ukrainian is from many years ago when I went to Ukrainian school as a girl. My Spanish is pretty good.
Okay.
I would say intermediate level Spanish. And my Arabic isn't bad. It's not really conversational, but as a Muslim, we learn to pray in Arabic, so I know how to read and write and obviously say my prayers in Arabic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the ones that you're rusty in? Because wasn't it 7?
7 at one time, yeah.
Okay, so who's
I had a little Italian, some German, but I don't get to use them now. Right?
Okay.
So they're pretty rusty. Conversationally, I can get by. And I can say hello, thank you, goodbye, you're welcome in probably 20 languages.
Pause. That was my head exploding, okay? Oh my gosh. American Express, then you go to a nonprofit.
Yeah, for the homeless population.
I vaguely remember that. And then, how did you end up teaching
ESL?
English as
Yeah, so when I was laid off in 87 at the homeless agency, this was during the big crash.
Right.
I took an ESL. A friend of mine, Hayat, said, Sayydah, she was always telling me, you should teach English. You should teach English. Because my English skills are very good, grammar, etc.
I can vouch
she
for
was
that.
Always So she encouraged me during that time to get certified as an ESL teacher. So I got certified as an ESL teacher, and then I joined another nonprofit in East Orange, New Jersey, where I'm still teaching after 9 years, the ESL in Adult Basic Education.
Is it 9 years now?
It's 9 years, yeah.
It feels like you just started.
Yeah, I started actually on my wedding anniversary in 2010. I started there.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm still there.
Would you say, because you said that it's not like you plan things per se. Have you kind of gone where your spirit led you, or were you just open to receive, like...
It's both.
Okay.
It's definitely both. I'm very open-minded. I don't plan things per se. Of course, I have, hopes and dreams and wishes and all that. But I kind of leave it out there as to someone's going to make a better decision than me, right? So I go with my feelings, my gut, and sometimes I'll just automatically say yes.
Which brings us
to how I founded Pastoralist Child Foundation, right? So I do foster an elephant at the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. And in 2012, my husband, daughter, and I, we were watching a documentary film about elephants. And when it was over, I said, I want to go to Kenya, where my fostered elephant is. I want to see elephants, my favorite animals, in the wild, in their natural habitat. So my husband said, oh, you can see elephants on YouTube.
And that sounds like...
Right? So in my mind, I said, F you. I'm going to Kenya. Because, I can't swear. My husband is very proper. So in my mind, I just said, F you, I'm going to Kenya. So I went on a solo safari to Kenya in August of 2012. And the second day that I was there, I visited a Maasai village. I was the only visitor that morning. I was there for an hour and a half. They welcomed me with song and dance, and I danced with them, and I played with the children. I visited inside the manyata, the houses. I was blown away. And in the meantime, there was a brother who said, Sayydah, would you like me to take pictures with your camera? And I practically threw it at him because I was so grateful that someone, would take pictures while I'm, enjoying the community. So I go back to the lodge where I was staying, and the day before, when I arrived, I met the assistant restaurant captain. His name is Samuel. So I go to the dining room, and I'm calling Samuel, waving him, come over, come here, you've got to see these pictures. So I'm showing him all these pictures. Look at the kids, look at the beautiful women, all the beautiful handmade jewelry, etc. And so finally, after all this excitement, he says, well, Sayydah, you visited my village. And I go, really? He goes, yeah, this is my native village that you just visited. So he's pointing out his sister and his father and his brother.
In your pictures.
In my pictures. I visited his village, right?
Wow.
So he's telling me about, their diet and et cetera, et cetera. And then this is the moment that changed my life, when he told me about female genital mutilation and child marriage. So I'm like, what is female genital mutilation? So he tells me the girls in my community, there's a rite of passage that they have to go through in order to be considered a woman, and it's called female genital mutilation. So he tells me about horrors of it, where girls, when they reach puberty, their clitorises are cut, their labia is cut, and now they're prepared to be married. And the whole reason for doing this rite of passage to womanhood is to keep the women clean and to suppress their sexual desire. So I'm totally horrified because I'm on a safari to see elephants and I'm learning about FGM. But like I said, there's a reason for everything, right? So he's telling me about all this, and he says girls are married after they're cut. They're married to old men who could be their grandfathers. It's basically an exchange, a girl for some livestock. Sheep, cattle, camels, right? Goats. So he looked up, and I'll never forget the day. The exact words were, he looked up to the sky and he said, Sayydah, I want to start a community-based organization to eradicate female genital mutilation and child marriage before it's my youngest sister's turn to get cut. Girls in my community drop out of primary school because they're forced to marry. He says, we need to educate my community to stop these two vices. So I knew how serious he was. And so I said, Samuel, I live 8,000 miles away in New Jersey, but I'll help you. I have experience as a proposal writer, grant proposal writer. I've done fundraising. I can help raise awareness. And so a big smile came across his face. He pointed at me and said, great, you will be our president. And I just said, okay. Right then and there, we co-founded Pastoralist Child Foundation. How are we going to do this? Right. Do we need money? Blah, 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 right? I just said, I'll help you, and we're doing this.
I've heard the story.
Yes.
But hearing it again, it's just as powerful as when I heard it the first time. It hits home for me, which is truly the message in these guest episodes, is that you must follow your gut and step out on faith. You will meet the right people at the right time. It will unfold.
It does.
You have to be patient. And when I think about your background in terms of you had worked for a nonprofit, you already had all of this information. And maybe at the time you were doing your thing, you didn't necessarily see the future. Right. But you were being schooled all that time so that you could be ready to do
open to it.
Yes.
Yeah. And totally open to it. Trusting in the universe, trusting in someone other than myself. Because who am I? Right?
You're a player, though, in the universe.
Yes. Yes.
You're an important player in the universe.
Thank you.
Because, we're all, there's no lesser or greater. We're all one. And we each are pieces of beautiful fabric. We forget
Yes.
that, and we
Right.
start putting up divisions. But there was something in Samuel that felt he could tell you this. Because when you think
Yeah.
about it, this is a stranger.
Total stranger.
You're a
Yes.
visitor to his country,
Yeah.
and he starts telling you about FGM.
Right.
What, it goes beyond odds and chances. It is feeling, he operated on his gut feeling that you were somebody that would listen.
Yes, absolutely. I have a personal mission. When I was working at the other nonprofit for the homeless, every nonprofit has a mission statement. And so I read at one time, a person should have his or her own mission statement. So I made my mission statement probably 20 years ago, and it's very simple. It's tell me what you want and I'll help you get it. That's my personal mission statement. That's what drives me. That's what I love to do, is tell me what you want and I'll help you get it. With all sincerity, with all the possible effort.
And I can vouch for that. I can vouch for that. That is extraordinary. So you and I were talking about the fact that I'm sure many of you in the audience have heard of FGM, maybe not the acronym, but female genital mutilation, and you think it's something that happens over there in undeveloped countries. But you were schooling me that it's right here in the U.S.
It's right here in the U.S., yes. As a matter of fact, the World Health Organization estimates that worldwide, 200 million girls and women have undergone FGM.
Ooh.
Millions are still at risk every day, and on any given day, 6,000 to 8,000 girls around the world are mutilated. Now, in the United States, 500,000 girls and women are at risk, okay? August is called cutting season, as in cutting off the clitoris. So, if you have people living here in the United States from practicing communities in Africa, Middle East, they send their girls home during summer holidays here, back to Somalia, back to Egypt, back to Mali, right? Practicing countries. And the girls are cut in the summer during their summer vacations. And then they come back to the States. So not only is that happening, it's happening in doctors' offices here in the United States. People very strongly believe that their daughters should undergo FGM.
That is something that is slowly changing in some communities, and your foundation is helping to make that shift. When you go over there, what are you doing when you go to Kenya?
So what we do is we have workshops for youth, and we have workshops for adults and elders. So the workshops for youth, they're for boys and girls, right? Because the boys need to know what the harmful effects are, child marriage. So this is an example. For 4 days, we take 60, 70 girls to a school where there's a dormitory, and for 4 days, they're learning about FGM, child marriage, teen pregnancy, which is rampant, HIV, AIDS, and STDs, self-awareness, self-confidence, child rights, the importance of education, okay? So for those 4 days, they've got their books, their pencils. We've got our facilitators who are social workers, local teachers, doctors, nurses doing the workshops. So for those 4 days, they're learning. The parents know what the curriculum is, so the parents are on board. 100% of the women that we interview no longer want to practice FGM. We've come in, actually this was Samuel's idea. This wasn't my idea, coming in an American/Canadian woman, shaking the finger and saying, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. This was Samuel's idea. So at first he was getting death threats. He was, they were threatening to excommunicate him from the tribe, and he says, you guys say what you want, but I made a promise to my mother, right? His mother had undergone FGM, forced to marry, lived in a, community where things were a little funky, never went to school, and on her dying bed, she made Samuel promise that he would take care of his sisters. Wow. So his sisters are in high school. He saved his sister from being cut. We have saved more than 2,000 girls from undergoing FGM.
That is amazing.
Yes. So
Amazing.
we're now working alongside the Girl Generation, UNICEF, many organizations we're all working together now to finally end FGM by the year 2030.
So the age range of girls
Yes.
that take this workshop with you,
8 to 17.
8 to 17.
Yes. When we first started, it was 12, 13 years old, but now, because people are doing it in secret, they're taking girls who are younger and younger and younger before they're even aware of what FGM is.
Oh, please say that one more time.
So when we first started, right, we started with girls who were about 12 years old. Now we're down to starting them at 8 years old to educate them about all this.
Because girls are being cut
at younger ages. There are some communities who are cutting babies right after birth.
Okay, now I don't mean to be graphic here, but just in case you don't remember what a clitoris and a labia is, I want you in the audience to just envision somebody forcibly holding you down, and in some instances it's the mother, yes?
The mothers are usually the ones who hold down the girls, spread their legs. An old circumciser, grandmother age circumciser, comes in with a razor blade. The girls are lined up on the ground. The old circumciser cuts off the clitoris and the labia with a razor blade. No anesthesia. And she just throws the clitoris away as if it's nothing. So imagine the horror, the pain, the trauma, right? Girls looking up at their own mothers holding them down because the mothers are basically not forced to do this, but still it's so deeply rooted in their tradition that they're still feeling that this should be done to their girls, right? If they're not done to the girls, if a girl is not circumcised, they get teased because you're not a woman, and harassed because everyone knows who is and isn't circumcised. So there's a tremendous pressure to be circumcised. So now, like I said, with our workshops, we have community dialogues. Now we have women speaking up and saying, we don't want this for our girls anymore. Pastoralist Child Foundation, we sponsor girls to go to secondary boarding schools, right? So that they get an education. And the girls are not circumcised. We make sure they're not circumcised. The parents have to agree, promise not to circumcise them. And as long as they're being sponsored by our organization, then they cannot circumcise the girls. And so the more girls we get into schools, the better. Enrollment has gone up since we started our program 7 years ago because now they realize the importance of education.
Yes.
Girls that we are sponsoring, one of them got a full scholarship to University of Nairobi. Full scholarship. She'll be starting end of this year. Another one is studying computers. Another one is studying to be a nurse. They're going to go back to their communities and help their communities.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to give somebody fish, but you have to teach them how to fish.
Absolutely.
So that they can take care of themselves.
And this is what they want to do.
Right.
So we also do women's economic empowerment workshops. So we have helped one group of 25 women from the village that I first visited. I got them a grant to build their own jewelry and artifacts curio. So now they are business owners. And another group of women in Masai Mara, a group of 60 women.
Wow.
We got a grant for so that they can do a project called the Bulls and Lambs Fattening Project. So they're going to fatten up these bulls and lambs that they bought, and with the funds, the money that they make, they'll be able to send more girls to school.
And it perpetuates itself. When you empower people, it's like a virus.
Yes.
But a good one.
But a good,
because it just spreads and spreads and spreads.
Right.
And the seeds that you plant, they grow and they're planting seeds.
Sure.
So it's just this continuum.
Right.
When this airs, this is going to air. You have a fundraiser coming up in
Yes.
October. Please speak about that.
Sure. So our annual fundraising party is on Friday, October 25th at the Glenridge Country Club in Glenridge, New Jersey. And so we're going to have Samuel fly in from Kenya, so he'll be present. And we'll have a silent auction, a live auction, terrific, really good food and drinks. And Samuel and another Kenyan woman are going to do a Kenyan dance presentation. And then at the end of it, they'll invite everybody to join in. So we'll all, learn some Kenyan folklore dancing. The tickets are on Eventbrite, so you can go to eventbrite.com and type in Pastoralist, Pastoralist, Child Foundation. You'll see the link to get the tickets. The short link is the http://bit.ly/gala.
And I'll have all that in the show notes, folks.
Okay.
So all you have to do, you'll be able to click on the links that you need.
Yeah.
If people want to get more involved in what you're doing, what's your website, email, all that stuff? How do you want people to reach out?
So our website is pastoralistchildfoundation.org. If they want more information, send an email to info@pastoralistchildfoundation.org. They can call. Our phone number is 973-980-7860. And I'll pick up the phone and say hello in either French, English, Russian, Ukrainian, Spanish, right? So give me a call and see what language you get. But we're a small nonprofit. Our goal is to raise $40,000 at our fundraiser in October. So hopefully that'll work out, and then we'll have a good amount of money to continue our very, very important workshops.
Extremely important. So while you're doing this, you're also teaching at your schools. And do you want to talk a little bit about your experiences with your students?
It is so interesting because I only teach adults. So in my classroom, in one class, it could be a combination of people from Haiti, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Senegal, French-speaking African countries where they come here, they want to learn English. South America, from Peru, Colombia, many different countries in South America. So it's a mix, and my students love bringing me food because I tell them right at the beginning of the year, if you feed me, you will be my friend for life, right? So just last week, one student in my adult basic ed class, she brought me kalaloo. She's Jamaican, so she brought some seeds from Jamaica and made me some kalaloo. Yes, it was so delicious.
Oh my!
Yes, so my students like to bring me food, and that's why when I looked in the mirror this morning, I looked a little bigger because you guys keep bringing me food. The honey buns and the muffins.
Honey buns.
And the oxtail from Jamaica. I mean, it's wonderful.
I have to throw in that Sayydah is an amazing cook, so she really has an appreciation for good food.
I was just going to say, so the joys of teaching adults is also wonderful because they're there because they want to be there, to learn English. I've heard horror stories of how they journeyed from their countries in Central America to the United States. Just the bus ride and just the horrors, walking for miles with their children. And, these are good people, hardworking people. My students, they work at night. They come to the class in the morning, and they're prepared and ready, and they're respectful. It's thank you, teacher, at the end of every lesson. They're so grateful, and I just wish them the best. And I do my best to get them prepared to find jobs here, find jobs and, be able to provide for their families and whatnot. So that is really rewarding as well.
Oh,
teaching.
That is fantastic. What do you see for your future? What do you see, dream-wise?
Dream-wise?
Yeah, not planning-wise, but dream-wise.
Our own school in Kenya. Our own secondary boarding school in Kenya, yes. For maybe 300 girls, right? A nice size secondary boarding school in Kenya. That would be a dream come true. We have the land. The land has been donated. If we get the money we have secured the land. It's just a matter of raising the funds to build, a school.
Okay. Well, you have spoken it into the universe, and I am I will expect.
Okay.
That phone call or text or something. We got the money for the school. I know that's going to come. I know that's going to happen. It's already
Yeah.
in
God
the ether.
willing. Yeah.
Already in the ether.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much.
Mwah.
I love you forever.
I love you forever. And I'm getting her some cookies.
Yes. Bring them on.
I get so geeked up when I hear an inspiring story. If you are one of the many, 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 many people out there who's working a job you hate or following a career that no longer burns for you, begin to see what it is that you actually want to do. Write it down wherever you want to write it down. Write it on paper, write it on your phone, your computer, your tablet. Whatever works, write it down. Begin to see yourself having it, achieving it, creating it. Willpower, trust, faith. Don't tell yourself you can't. Don't allow anyone else to tell you you can't. Thank you for listening. If you want to find out more information about my guest, just look at the show notes. All of the links are there. And remember to roll with peace in mind.